So in my niche deck, this is an A with freaking Genie, because I'm shifting at turn 6, playing like an action card for free, getting that action back, playing it for free the next turn. But in reality,
What is this nightmare world you've put me in?
But in reality, it's a D. I just wanted to see your reaction. But in my Genie deck,
I love you too, buddy.
This
Oh
is
my gosh. Welcome back, fellow Illumineers, to be our guest. Today we're doing Emerald set review for Constructed. We've gone through Amber and Amethyst already. If you haven't checked those out, please do. We will probably reference some of the things we said there. But before we even get to the set review, I just wanted to say a quick word to thank you all just so much. We hit 100 subscribers yesterday. Well, today at the time of video, but yesterday at the time we're publishing this. Which hopefully you from the far distant future, once you're seeing this, we're at like 10,000 subscribers. But, I mean, realistically, we'll be at like 102. So thank you all so much for supporting us. I hope that you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, that you like what we've got to offer, and that you keep enjoying our content for many more days to come. At least days, right? I'm not getting ahead of myself. I'm not saying years.
A couple of days at least.
A couple more days and then we're done. Patrick, any word for the people?
No, just to echo what you said, thank you so much for all your support, the comments, the feedback that we've received. It means the world to us. When Heath and I started this channel, it was really just for fun. We didn't see any...
I mean, we're not having fun now.
I mean, true.
That's done.
True.
Now it's all
now it's just business, right? But no, like seriously, like when we first started, we both love TCGs. We're both huge Disney fans, so we just wanted to do something, fun and see if we got traction, and you guys have proven that you guys enjoy the content. So thank you so much, and thank you again for your continued support.
Yeah. And here I'm going to be really cheeky and say if you really like the content, feel free to tell your family and friends. Tell the people. Spread the word. I mean, at the end of the day, we just want to give people a little bit of entertainment, help them learn the game a little bit more, think about the game at a different level, and hopefully that's what we're doing for you. So thank you again so much. Let's dive into it, because of course we already are going long. We haven't even started. Let's get into Emerald here. What are our rankings referring to? So when you're thinking about A+, I want you to think best card in the color. Like just hands down best card. A is just complete bomb. Maybe not best card in the color, but an absolute bomb. A- is, it may not be a massive bomb, but it's an auto 4 times in any deck. B+ is going to be an auto include in some number or a niche bomb. So it's a bomb, but it's only a bomb in like one type of deck, right? B is you're going to include 4 times in most of your decks. B- is include in most decks in some number, and maybe 1 or 2 decks might have 4 times in there. C+ is it's your last few inclusions, the last ones that you're kind of happy about, right? So C+ is kind of the last happy tier. C is we're fine, we got it in there. Maybe we're not particularly happy about it, but include it if we must. C- is we try not to include this. We're not happy about it, but maybe it fills a particular need of this deck, and it's just kind of, we have to have it in there. D is try not to include it, like just don't include it. And then F is pretty much like D, but like run away, scared, like do not touch this with a 10-foot pole. All right? So ultimately we'll boil it down to a little bit simpler terms at the end, but that's kind of the tiers that we're going through these. All right. With that in mind, let's start. Patrick, why don't you lead us off today? What's our first
Sounds good. First card is Aladdin Prince Ali. 2 cost, inkable. 2 strength, 2 willpower, and it has ward, which means opponents can't choose this character except to challenge.
Yeah. So, this one I'm not a big fan of. I've got it at C. And the issue that I have is that literally the only really positive thing that I can say about this card is that it's a reasonable shift target for Heroic Outlaw. You don't get much cheaper than 2. I know, hot take. 2 is very close to as cheap as you can get. But let me say this once and for all the people in the back. Ward on a 2/2 is just stupid. There is no point.
Yep.
The only benefit is that if your opponent is like super scared of you having a shift target for Heroic Outlaw, they might waste a Fire the Cannons on it. But like the least impactful ward in the entire set so far. And I just don't understand. The fact of the matter is that's really... Fire the Cannons is really the only impactful thing that you're preventing. I will say... I'll backtrack a little bit and say that Giant Fairy's second ability, the 2 damage ability...
Yeah, you're protecting it from that.
You're protecting it from that. But the fact of the matter is if we're valuing this ward on this 2/2 to prevent one very specific card from getting off an ability that has limitations anyway, it has to challenge and banish another character for it to even activate, that's not really the selling feature that you need it to be. So I factor it in as a decent shift target for Heroic Outlaw, if that's what you want to do. But otherwise, if Heroic Outlaw is not in your deck, don't bother. There are much better 2-drops for Emerald.
Yeah, that's exactly my thing too. I also have it at a C. I was very tempted to put it at a D, honestly, but I knew you'd
something
give me
between C and D.
For it. But I mean, for the same reasons you mentioned, it's a great shift target. But what are you really protecting it from? I mean, by that point in time, turn 6, if it's still out there, hey, great. But it's going to be still out there.
No, it's just dying to the 1-cost 2/2s. That's all that's happening with Prince Ali. It's just dying to the 1-cost 2/2s.
That's exactly it.
All right. Next, we got Beast Wolfsbane, which is a 5-cost uninkable 4/4 with 2 lore, Rush, which means this character can challenge the turn they're played, and the ability Roar. When you play this character, exert all opposing damaged characters. Where do you have this at, Patrick?
I have it at a C+.
Okay. Yep.
Close to B-, but probably C+. Rush is great, right? I mean, that's always a plus just to wipe something off the board.
Yeah.
But it's very rare that on turn 5, when you can cast this, that multiple damage is going to be on your opponent's board. Because there's not a lot of cards that can do that. And even if they're all exerted, fine, you get your pick of, target at that point.
I think between all the games I've played, both constructed and limited, I've seen his second ability actually trigger once.
Yeah, it doesn't trigger.
Usually they're exerted anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't trigger. So it's not great. That's why I have it at the ranking.
I've got it at a B- just because, again, I feel like when I was talking about an Amethyst, that I've been undervaluing Rush. And I think that that 5 for a 4 for a Rush is if we're just factoring in that, is not too much to ask. And as opposed to Zeus, for example, in our Amethyst.
Also a 4/4 when he attacks.
A 4/4 when he attacks, but specifically, the 4 strength sticks around for Beast, where it doesn't for Zeus. So he's much more likely to get the 2-for-1, and I would say almost assuredly. Like, certainly, if you're playing him later in the game, your opponent's probably going to have bigger characters that can swing back and not do the 2-for-1. But the fact of the matter is even if you're not getting a 2-for-1, at least you're dealing 4 damage to whatever's taking you out, which frees it up for you maybe taking it out their challenger with a smaller character of your own. So I think no matter what, you're getting good value. So you're getting either a 2-for-1 or you're getting, let's say, a 1.5-for-1 because the damage sticks around. So,
and even if you're not, you're getting 2 lore, right? You just quest.
Exactly. And you can actually reasonably quest with him because he's still got that 4 strength. Whereas when you're questing with Zeus, your opponent can throw anything at it and take it out. So I like Beast a heck of a lot better than Zeus, even for the 1 extra cost.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I like protecting my investment, and so if I got to pay 1 more to be able to protect my investment and have some strength on the backswing, then I'll do so. All right, what do we got next?
All right, we got Cheshire Cat, Not All There. 3-cost inkable, 0 strength, 3 willpower, 2 lore, with the ability of lose something. When this character is challenged and banished, banish the challenging character.
Scott Landis' favorite card. Shout out to you, Scott. Favorite card in the set, I'm pretty sure. Well, maybe not.
Still?
Card, but
Still a favorite card?
No, quite the opposite. It's his least favorite card. I don't think he's counting like Frying Pan, but it's certainly the card that he hates to see the most.
Frying Pan?
I've got it at C. Without going too much into how Scott feels about it, I've got it at C. Strictly because of the aggro decks. I think outside of the aggro decks, it has no place in the game. In the aggro decks, we've already established that 2 lore on a 3 body is reasonable. We don't really care what it's on, as long as we're getting in the aggro deck, again, 2 lore on a 3-cost body. That's all we care about. The fact of the matter is, the reason why you should hate this card and be wary about it is because inevitably your opponent's going to run a 2-2 into it, and then a 1-2, and then it's the 1-2 that's going to get banished. And who the heck cares? You know, if Simba Future King gets banished with Cheshire Cat's ability, your opponent is not crying any tears. So get what lore out of him you can, and just expect that you're not going to get a good trade. Every once in a while, you've got your opponent in a desperate position, and they have to throw something big at this, but do not celebrate at that like it's going to happen very often. Marvel at the fact that it happened in the first place. Take your win and move on.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely squeeze 2 lore out of this. So it really becomes a 3-cost 2 lore, right?
Yep.
You might be able to squeeze 4 if you get it early on enough, and they don't really want to sacrifice it. So yeah, I mean, I have it at a C+ for that reason. Is potentially 2 to 4 lore for a 3-drop. Nothing great.
Yeah, the thing is so, and I get it. Like, you can absolutely rush to a win, but so many people are willing to throw away ink and cards for like a few lore and nothing else. Like, I want a few lore and a return, and me taking out something of relative substance.
Well, now you're just being greedy.
No, I'm trying to win the game.
You're just being greedy at this point.
I'm being greedy in that I am trying to win and play cards that help me win. All right, we'll move on. We've got Cruella de Vil, Miserable as Usual. She's a 2-cost inkable 1/3 with 1 lore with the ability You'll Be Sorry. When this character is challenged and banished, you may return chosen character to their player's hand. Patrick, how do you feel?
I have Cruella at a B-,
okay.
Strictly for her ability, and the fact that she's inkable as well.
Remember when I thought this was challenged and challenging, like just banishing a challenge? That would have been so good.
That would have bumped up my ranking for sure.
Do not be misled. You have to be challenged. She has to be on the defense.
You cannot be the challenge.
This is to trigger.
This is not A+ Prince Philip we're talking about. Okay, this is just Cruella. All right. So
I thought it was Keeper of Secrets that had your heart, Patrick.
They both do.
All right. Both. Any other thoughts on Cruella, the actual card as it's printed?
No, not really. I just have it at a B+ just because of the
B+ or B-? I thought.
Sorry, B-. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
B-
so
because of...
I do have her at a B. I've got her a little bit better, and the reason being is because I feel like she's a misleadingly good card. Not because of her ability per se, but the psychology that comes from her ability, which is that, you know, if your opponent's smart, they can probably just get rid of her early, and maybe you're bouncing like a 2-cost or a 3-cost or something like that. But they tend to shy away from that, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. She keeps accruing lore, little chip at a time, one at a time, and eventually they feel like they got to get rid of her, and then they got a 4 or 5 dropout that you can bounce, that you can return to their hand, and then she's just wonderful, right? Yeah. So I think that she gets better depending on your opponent. So there is that factor, which is if you're playing this game at a high level, you might not get as much value out of her. But at the level you're likely to be playing for the next several months, if not longer, she's very potent. So
yeah.
All right, what do we got next?
We have the Duke of Whistleton, Opportunistic Official, for 1-cost inkable. 2 strength, 2 willpower, 1 lore. Very vanilla.
Yep. If you've watched our Amber review, you'll have seen this. Everyone but New Dog in this series of 1-cost 2/2/1s, I've got it C, which is I think that you need something in your early game to make sure that you don't get run over, something to manage the board a little bit, to maybe eke out a little bit of lore. Just make sure you're staying in the game in the first, 3, 4, 5 turns. So whether it's this or something else, make sure your deck can account for that. So if you don't have another recourse, then these are perfectly serviceable options. I wouldn't be happy about having it in the deck, but they're perfectly serviceable options to make sure you don't get blown out in the early game.
I have it as a D, as for all my vanilla cards.
Just if it's vanilla. So once we get to Sapphire and we get to Maleficent Uninvited, just D.
No,
I'm going to make you give her a D. I'm going to edit your video so it says D for her.
False. There are certain Ds and there are certain better ones, but this is just ink. There's no point. I mean, you can replace it with any.
There's absolutely a point. If you don't have anything impacting the board until like turn 3, then you're going to get blown out.
False.
So what are you doing turn 1 and 2? Turn 1, let's say, to impact the board.
Dropping ink pass.
All right. I look forward to the many victories against you, sir, in our coming games.
Sounds good.
Moving on. We've got Flynn Rider Charming Rogue. 2-cost inkable, 1/2, with 2 lore, with the ability Here Comes the Smolder. Whenever this character is challenged, the challenging player chooses and discards a card.
100%. I don't think it's best in deck. I think you know what my best in color is. But yeah, Flynn Rider is definitely an A. Low cost, 2 lore, right? I mean, your hand destruction, which I love whenever he gets challenged. Just everything, every single good thing I can say about this card is right there.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is although discard doesn't necessarily synergize with what every deck's trying to do, or lore rush, the fact of the matter is I can't think of any better 2-drop in the game. So if that's the case, I have to have him at A-, because that means that it's a 4 times automatic in every single Emerald deck. And I think that's the case. I will never qualify a card like this as a bomb, but I think that it is a card that you want 4 times in every Emerald deck that you've got. The fact of the matter is no matter what your strategy is, there's very few times where this is wasted. And in future sets, we might have better things for you to do at a 2-drop, but right now there just isn't.
Correct.
Okay. What do we got next?
Genie on the Job. 6-cost uninkable for a 3/4/2 lore evasive. With the ability disappear when you play this character, you may return chosen character to their player's hand.
Yeah. So the bane of my existence, if you've seen any of our gameplay videos, this no card makes me want to flip the table like a Genie on the Job. Even with all the releases since, it remains the one that vexes me most. It is my A+. I will be honest, this is the first ink that I've felt there's some contest for what should be the best card in the color. I could even potentially made an argue for a tie for A+. I haven't. This is my A+ for Emerald. But I'm very happy to make the case for Genie on the Job.
Yeah, this is easily my A+ as well. Like
awesome.
no card in Emerald even comes close.
All right. Go ahead. No.
Yeah, I mean, it just based on our gameplay alone, right? I mean, every single time I get one, you're a little annoyed. I top deck a second one, you just table and concede, right?
I'm more than a little annoyed at the first. I'm proud when I can overcome the first one.
Yeah, and then
it's the second one that's backbreaking and the third one that's misery.
Yeah, absolutely. It just delays your opponent so much. Yeah. And if they can't answer with their own evasive, you're running away with the game at that point.
And even if they can, there's only really one evasive in the game that can deal with them. Well, I mean, you've got Robin Hood and Simba Returned King that can deal with him that aren't truly evasive. I meant the actual evasive. So what? There's 3 characters that can deal with him through challenging. Yeah, because
Brave Tailor can too.
Yeah, sorry, I never seem to count Brave Tailor because I don't think he's particularly great.
He's
in
not
constructed.
great. He's not great.
So I'm not really counting him. I'm happy to bounce Brave Little Tailor back to your hand if you want to play him. The thing is I go on a lot about uninkables and how important it is to be conservative with your uninkables. But this is no contest the first uninkable I'm putting in the deck for Emerald, in every Emerald deck. I talked about how I always want to have the option to ink. 6 cost is so reasonable that I would have to be really hard pressed, as in I would be absolutely stuck otherwise to ink a card like Genie. So the fact that he's uninkable is relatively moot for me, because unless I'm, building my deck or playing particularly poorly, I shouldn't be in that situation very often, like maybe 0.5% of the time. So every other time, there's no chance I would ever ink Genie, even if he was inkable. I knew that this was going to be impactful when the card came down. The tempo hit, the evasive, all that, but I didn't quite realize how much. That's why a card like Mother Knows Best, that we'll go over later, is so useful in and of itself. That effect in the card game that I'm familiar with, Magic the Gathering, is fine, but usually not considered good at all, because of the fact that you lose a card doing it. But in this game, tempo seems to matter so much that an effect like that can be backbreaking. He is just stellar. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir of everyone that's ever watching this video, but I just had to really dig into just how good he is.
Yeah, he's very good. For sure.
Any other thoughts before we move on?
Nope.
All right.
You said it all.
Well, from the highs to the lows, Genie powers...
To the lows?
Yeah, I think we're going to be a part on this.
We're a part on this for sure.
Genie Powers Unleashed. He is an 8-cost uninkable, 3/5 with 3 lore, shift 6, which says you may pay 6 ink to play this on top of one of your other characters named Genie, with evasive. We didn't describe this on the last one. I usually just try to describe it the first time we encounter it in a color. Only characters with evasive can challenge this character. And the ability Phenomenal Cosmic Power. Itty bitty living space. Whenever this character quests, you may play an action with cost 5 or less for free. So you obviously have this at an A or something, I'm guessing.
No, I have it at a B+.
Okay, we're not super far apart. I have it at a B-.
I have it at a B+. Because there's a lot of combo tricks you can do with this, right? So, turn 6, you play on the job, you bounce back one of the threats. Turn 7, you shift this onto Genie of the Job, because Genie of the Job's already done its job, right? It doesn't have any ongoing effects. Now
no. What? You're shifting this onto Genie on the Job to give him 1 extra willpower and 1 extra lore?
Absolutely.
No.
And every time I'm questing, I get a free action, 5 or less? Absolutely, I am.
No.
Yes.
Okay. So here's the problem. Any deck you've ever built, how many action cards are actually in there? Not
12.
enough to reliably have more than 1, maybe 2, in the time where this is going to be on the board.
If you're questing anyway, you might as well get some extra value, right? It protects it from
but I'm
Brave
saying
Tailor.
don't rely on that ability actually being all that impactful.
Right, but the extra willpower makes a difference too, because now Brave Tailor can't take it out.
Okay, I'm mainly fighting you on the fact that you're shifting this onto on the job. You shift this onto the ever impressive.
No,
our next
I'm shifting
card.
it on the job. Why wouldn't I? On the job,
Because that's such a waste of a card, Patrick. You're spending that whole extra card to get 1 extra willpower and 1 extra lore.
And an ongoing questing effect. If I'm questing with Genie on the job anyway, I'm getting no value except for the 3 lore. It's vulnerable to Brave Tailor and other evasives.
Please, everyone, roast Patrick in the comments at this asinine suggestion that you would ever shift. Like, I don't mean never, ever. Yeah, maybe there's a circumstance when I need 3 lore instead of 2 to win the game and I need him to have haste, that I would shift this onto on the job. But that is so infrequent that the proposition of this is just ludicrous. Ludicrous, sir!
It is not. You are saving 2 turns.
Okay.
You are still gaining.
So let's nix the argument about, because we could go back and forth, which astounds me that this is even a debate, but that's besides the point. Let's talk about the card itself. Because his last ability, I think too many people are giving credit to as being this amazing thing. And sure, we all know playing things for free in a card game is really, really powerful. That's why songs are so powerful. But what action cards are you actually going to have in this deck with it that you're going to draw a substantial amount? Like, the decks that I'm having the most action cards in are probably Steel, because Amethyst really only has 1, maybe 2 action cards that you're going to put in the deck. Steel has
you don't want to cast.
But even then, how many times by the time you get this out, whether it's shifted or otherwise, do you have more than 1 action card in hand? And maybe you draw 1 more over the course of the next few turns.
It's still 2 that you don't have to pay ink for, and you're gaining 3
but
low.
You shouldn't be like giving that a real major boost to say that this is such a great card.
It is a great card.
No. I think it is a solid card. I think it is a card that some people might want to play in a deck. But I think that this is so far removed from anything that you should ever just assume goes in an Emerald deck that it's probably should be a C+. But I'm going to give it a B- based on
if you're putting Genie on the job in your deck, you're putting Genie Powers Unleashed in your deck as well.
Nope. Because I never plan on shifting them onto there. I would have to have the Ever Impressive in the deck for me to want to play him.
Well, we'll see. In our playtesting, I'll put it in my deck. We'll see if I run you over.
All right. Speaking of which, what's our next card?
Genie the Ever Impressive. 2-cost inkable for 2/3, 1 lore. Vanilla.
Yeah. So this is the same stats as Amber's Minnie Mouse, but without the benefit of being in the same color as Stitch Rockstar. Having 3 willpower at 2 cost is solid, but... really, for me, this is a C- if you're not planning on playing Powers Unleashed, and this is a C to C+ if you're planning on playing Powers Unleashed. So I'm keeping it as a C- in general.
It is a C- for sure. It's a C- for sure because
you're planning on shifting onto Genie on the job for some silly reason.
If you have the Ever Impressive anyway on turn 6, are you shifting Cosmic over playing Genie on the job? On turn 6? Of course you're not. You're playing Genie on the job. This is useless. This is useless on turn 6. It's ink.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So, Han's Scheming Prince. 4-cost inkable, 3/3 with 3 lore. That's it. What do you think, sir?
I have it at a B.
Okay.
I mean, very vanilla, but for a 4 cost for 3 lore, that's pretty solid. That's pretty solid for in terms of lore. I think it's the cheapest. Is it the cheapest 3 lore?
Yes.
At 4?
I can't remember if there's another 4 cost, but it's definitely the cheapest. Yeah.
So for that reason alone, it gets a B. I mean, I'll spend 4 ink to get 3 lore and then have it die horribly. That's fine.
I've got it as C+ just because, again, I'm not interested in playing 4 ink for 3 lore and that's it. I mean, yeah, you probably you're going to get 3 damage regardless, whether it's taking something out or not. So it's not nothing. I still think it's very good. I think in the aggro deck, it's one of the best 4-drops. The problem I have with this is that there's not really a viable strategy yet for protecting a card like this, which is a high lore battery but vulnerable. The bodyguard thing isn't really a huge package for me yet. Like in the aggro deck, having the bodyguards with just in time, I think works well. But I would like to see it become more viable before I'm really ready to go all in on Han's Scheming Prince. I think, again, in that deck, he's one of the better 4-drops that you can have early, because Rapunzel you're probably not playing on turn 4. But I'm not in love with him yet. I've got him at C+.
Yep.
Even though he's a fellow ginger. What do we got next?
We have Horus, the no good scoundrel, for a 3-cost inkable for a 4/3, 1 lore.
Yeah, I've got this at a C-. I've been debating whether his stats are better or worse than the 3/4/1s. On the whole, I think that, at least right now, I'd rather have the 3/4/1 because that early in the game, I'm much more likely to get a 2-for-1 with the 4 willpower than I am to trade up with Horus on something that I need the 4 strength for. The fact that, he can die to Forceful Duelist to Captain Hook is kind of adding to that. But the fact of the matter is, whatever's taking him out, I think I'd just rather the 3/4/1 at this cost. So it's a C- for me.
Yeah, it's also a C minus for me. I mean, I dislike vanilla cards, as you already know, but I mean, it's just ink at this point.
All right. Next, we've got Iago Loudmouth Parrot. He's a 3-cost inkable 1/4, 1 lore, has the ability You Got a Problem, exert him, chosen character gains Reckless during their next turn. And notably, he's, I think, certainly one of the few, but potentially the only one that I can think of right now, that gives a status ability to another character on their turn. So many abilities are affected on your turn, so... there's things like they can't quest on their turn or whatever, but like a status ability, like a keyword ability. I think it's the only one that gives a keyword ability on their turn.
I have Iago at a C.
Okay.
I'm just not a fan of Reckless as a keyword.
Yep.
Because the way that the game is laid out, and I still can't believe this is a thing, but on Reddit there is a post that's like 300 plus comments on Reckless alone, on some guy who didn't understand.
People have a lot to say.
Yeah, and it's a rabbit hole for sure. And I read that whole thread and all the comments, and I just couldn't believe what I was reading. Because basically the official rule is, it has to challenge if it's able, but you have until the end of your turn to decide when to challenge, because there's no phases in the game, right? You can mix up your actions. You can challenge with 2 characters. Do an action, challenge with your third, whatever the case may be, right?
Yep.
So while a character is reckless, they can still exert for their ability if they have one, or exert to sing a song.
Yep.
So it's not as impactful as if the very first action you have to take on your turn is to challenge with this character, right? I think that would be a lot stronger.
Yep.
And that's the only reason I have Iago where he is, because I just don't think the reckless keyword is all that powerful.
All right, so I need to physically and emotionally prepare myself for the fight I'm about to get in with Wiro. Shout out to Wiro the Great. We were doing our draft review video earlier today, and which you'll see coming out later. If anyone's interested in that, check it out. It's coming soon. But I got the sense that he's a big fan and constructed of Iago, and I have him at a D. And I'll tell you why. For me, the time for his usefulness has passed him by. So this is like the roller coaster of emotions that's been with Iago. When he first got spoiled, we had very little information about him. All we saw was reckless and their turn. And so we didn't see the exerted piece on there. So Patrick and I assumed, or at least I did, maybe Patrick was just going with me, that it was a comes into play ability.
Yep.
And we played it that way in one of our videos, you can see. The first one that features Emerald. Way back when. And I can tell you that, first of all, I'll get into Reckless, as Patrick did in a second, as an ability. But just as the way he implements Reckless, I found it was actually better as it comes into play ability, as a one-use, than this exert ability. Strictly because he's a 1/4 body. So you're giving someone the perfect target for them to challenge. Yes, it then opens them up to be challenged in return, but the fact of the matter is you're giving them the perfect target to challenge. So that's the first problem, because there's no surprise. They know it's coming, and you can set things up so much better with a comes into play ability that they don't expect than you can with an exert ability. So that's the first part of it, just the fact that the way he implements Reckless is relatively bad, in my opinion. The second is Reckless itself. As Patrick alluded to, I've got a few extra things to add in there, which is just the problem I have with Reckless is that it's not necessarily a huge negative. Yes, there are characters that you would patently not want to challenge with, but being forced to challenge isn't such a significant step down from questing for lore that I'm all that fussed about it. Yes, when you give my Stitch Rockstar Reckless, I'm not particularly thrilled, but I'm still swinging in for 3, so it's not the end of the world. And to your point, you can also sing songs, and you can also use exert abilities, and all that good stuff. And the other part is if I clear your board of exerted characters before my character is forced to challenge, I got no one left to challenge. Well, guess what? You just failed at getting me to even exert that character, let alone them actually, dying, getting banished in that challenge. So I think, on the whole, it's a particularly mediocre ability. I think on a card like John Silver that we'll get to, it's better because it also comes into play as well as when he quests. And so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But Reckless as an ability, I don't think is a huge negative. I think it's a negative. I think it's worth having in the game, but I don't think it's a huge negative. And I think the way that Iago implements it is relatively bad. So for all those reasons, I have him at a D.
Makes sense.
Rant over.
Yep, makes sense. Well, I was over Iago as soon as he got fully spoiled. I was like, oh, this is not great.
I think there was a while there where the pool of cards available was limited enough that he still had a use.
He was viable, yeah.
But I'll be honest, I prefer our next card to him. So why don't we dive into that one? What do we got next?
Yeah, so we got Jasper, Common Crook, a 3 cost inkable for a 2/4 with 1 lore. The ability is Puppy Napping. Whenever this character quests, a chosen opposing character can't quest during their next turn.
Yeah. So I have Jasper at a C+. So which, remember, is like still in my happy place. Still, I'm happy to have him in the deck, right? He's not super powerful to me, but I'm happy to have him in the deck. Because in contrast to Iago, Jasper doesn't have to just use his ability to make them reckless. He gets to quest, and the ability that he gives them is not far removed from Reckless. Because the fact of the matter is for me, the best part of Reckless is that they can't quest for lore.
Correct.
So that's already what I'm trying to accomplish for the most part anyway. And the fact of the matter is I might as well give them Reckless, because you can bet when I make it so that they can't quest for lore, they're gonna want to challenge in. And when they do, I'd much rather have 2 strength than 1. So all of these things combined make it so that I think Jasper is much more useful than Iago. He's just as likely to survive as long as Iago does, but I get to quest for lore in the process, and I get to deal 2 damage instead of 1 when he's inevitably wiped from the board.
Correct. Yeah, I also have him, at a C+.
Nice.
It's the exact same reasons you just stated. He's a better Iago.
All right. Next, we alluded to him. We have John Silver, Alien Pirate. 6 cost inkable, 5/5, 2 lore, with the ability Pick Your Fights. When you play this character and whenever he quests, chosen opposing character gains Reckless during their next turn. I did just mention that I thought that Iago was the only one that gave Reckless. I forgot about John Silver.
That's Silver does too.
I'm probably already gotten roasted in the comments, but yeah.
Yeah, I have John Silver to B. Because unlike Iago, it's every time that I'm questing now as well. I'm giving you a character Reckless. So I can stall out in the mid game, right? If you have 3 lore character, I can usually stall them out and make sure that you're not questing with that character.
Yep.
5/5's a tough body. If you're challenging John Silver, fine. You're taking 5 anyway. And I already got my 2 lore for only a 6-drop inkable. Yeah, absolutely. It's a B for me.
Yeah, so I think we're going to upset some people because I've got him at B+, and I'm sure there's many people that are like, he's the best Emerald card. There's maybe some people that are giving him an A+.
Sure.
So the reason why I've got him at B+ is, so keep in mind, B+ is an include in some capacity in every deck and or a niche bomb. And I don't qualify him as a niche bomb. I think he just has a place in most every deck. I don't think it's a great place. I think that it's a good place. But the issue that I have remains that I don't think Reckless is super impactful, but where I like him a heck of a lot better, obviously, than Iago, is first and foremost that it's a comes into play ability. I mentioned why I think that's so impactful. And the second is when he's inevitably targeted for the fact that he's giving Reckless. He's a 5/5 body instead of a 1/4. And then the third is, much like Jasper, he gets to quest for 2 lore in the process of having this effect. I think you could probably do enough in the game, whether it's play Genie on the job or whatever the case may be, to clear the path enough that you can force something small that you want to get rid of, relatively small, to get Reckless, and have him survive a turn to do it again. And then if I'm getting 4 lore, if I'm preventing 2 of my characters or the same character twice from questing, and I'm dealing 5 damage returning in the process, I'm pretty happy with an investment of 6 ink for that.
Absolutely.
Even the once, I'm not unhappy, but I think you can do enough in this deck to get 2 turns out of them. Assuming they don't have a removal spell, obviously. Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
All right, who do we got next?
We have Jumba Jukiba, the Renegade Scientist, for 5 cost inkable. 4/5 body for 2 lore. Vanilla text.
So let me guess, you have it at a D, and that's fine. I've got it at a C minus.
I do.
I've got it at a C minus, so we're not far off. The fact of the matter is that I don't think that a 5 cost for a decent willpower, 2 lore, is necessarily unplayable. I just think in this color especially, it's such a great color. There's so many other things you're wanting to do around this time that I just don't see the point of him.
He's the 5-drop ink. I mean, would you rather play him on turn 5 or the next card that we're going to talk about on turn 5?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think you just got better things to be doing on turn 5. The fact of the matter is, I'm not like in love with the next card. But all right, so we got Kuzco Temperamental Emperor, 5 cost uninkable, 2/4, 3 lore with ward, which is opponents can't choose this character except to challenge. I think we already covered that. And no touchy. When this character is challenged and banished, you may banish the challenging character, also known as the Cheshire Cat ability.
Yes. I have it at a B minus.
Oh, okay. So walk me through B minus for you.
Yeah. So, like you said, it's the Cheshire Cat ability, right? It's 5 drops, so it's probably the best 5-drop in the color, just because of the lore.
I'm gonna have to remind myself of what's a 5-drop, but go on.
Yeah, because of the lore.
I already disagree. It's the best 5-drop. I looked down.
Is there another one?
Yep, keep going.
I'm not thinking of. Okay. But yeah, I mean, and when it gets challenged, you're bouncing back, or you're banishing, the challenging creature, right? So something with 4 strength. Your chances of trading up are pretty high. Yes, it loses to Jasper, but
could you imagine losing this to a Jasper? Oh.
I mean, you still get 3 lore out of it, but yeah, I'd be pretty sad too.
Yeah. All right. So here's the thing. So I'll get into that. We got 2 more before we get into the card that I think is a better 5-drop. I've got them at the same rating. I just think the other one's slightly better. So ward is all the things I ranted about Aladdin having ward. The opposite applies here. This is the perfect card to have ward because he's relatively fragile but has such a big impact that you need to avoid him being removed relatively easily. The problem is, as soon as he's exerted, he's very easy to remove. The difference between him and Cheshire Cat is Cheshire Cat has 0 strength. So when they throw a couple of small characters at him, it doesn't matter. Right? Whereas they throw a couple of small characters at Kuzco, and he'll probably take them both out, or potentially take them both out. So at the very least, you're getting a poor 2-for-1, but you're getting 3 lore and a moderate, to poor 2-for-1. You're still getting some card advantage. So the package is fine. Where he really shines, and I've mentioned this a few times, is obviously in the aggro deck, right? When you can throw out a couple of bodyguards in front of him, he gets a heck of a lot better. I still am not wholly convinced that the bodyguard package is enough yet. I think that the bodyguards that we have other than Simba are so-so. But as soon as we start getting some more potent bodyguards, he could definitely go up. Right now I've got him at a B+, which I think is generous because I value him so highly in the aggro deck and I value him a lot less in other decks. So it's an overall B+.
Yep, that's fair.
All right. By contrast, what's our next card, Patrick?
Lady Tremaine, Wicked Stepmother, 6 cost uninkable for a 1/5/1 lore. Do it again. When you play this character, you may return an action card from your discard to your hand.
Yeah, so this is a hard F. A hard F. This is just the fact that there is an action card that we'll get to later, which usually when you've got an action card built into a body, usually you're like, okay, the body's reasonably costed. Like look at Hades, for example, in Sapphire. 7 cost for the Let It Go ability and a 3/6/2 body. Right? So you're effectively paying 2 for a 3/6/2 body. Incredible. Look at Genie on the Job. Right? 3 cost for his ability on an action card. Or for 6, you get a 3/4/2 lore
evasive body. So usually that's the case with these type of cards. For her, the action card is 3 costs. You're effectively paying 3 for 1/5/1. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? First of all, I don't think that there's enough potent action cards to really warrant a return to hand card right now. Yes, she might go up in value in the future, but right now, I don't even think the ability is that impactful, and then you're telling me I'm paying 3 for 1/5/1? Just, no. Even when I thought this was 2 lore, I thought, she's playable. Not great, but playable. At 1 lore, this is fiery hot garbage. Now let me tell you how I read it.
So in my niche deck, this is an A with freaking Genie, because I'm shifting at turn 6, playing like an action card for free, getting that action back, playing it for free the next turn. But in reality,
what is this nightmare world you've put me in?
But in reality, it's a D. I just wanted to see your reaction. But in my Genie deck,
I love you too, buddy.
This is auto include in my Genie deck for that reason alone.
Gosh, no.
Because I'm getting extra value from my action cards. But in any other deck, yes, it's a D. It is definitely not great. It has one use in a very specific deck.
Now my face is all red from anger now.
From rage.
Yeah.
All right. So next we've got Mad Hatter, Gracious Host, 5 cost inkable, 2/4, 3 lore with the ability Tea Party. Whenever this character is challenged, you may draw a card. We have my favorite 5-drop in Emerald.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I knew as soon as this was released, because I know you're a Mad Hatter fan. A minus.
Oh, this has nothing to do with the theme, though. I'm really glad that the Mad Hatter was a good card.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so A minus. I think 3 lore for a 5-drop, and every time it gets challenged, you draw a card is fantastic. Card draw is always good. You can even, pair it with what's his face? Why does the name escape me right now? John Silver, and give something reckless and have it run into Mad Hatter for some free card draw, right? So
I mean, chances are they'll run into John Silver, but maybe not.
Well,
right? He is 3 lore, right?
I mean, yeah, maybe. So,
so I have him at a B plus still, but I still rank him higher than Kuzco, only because
Sure.
I don't think I can assume that something like this, a 5 cost 2/4, even with 3 lore, should fit in every deck. But I'm certainly putting in every Emerald deck I've got. But I'm a card draw addict.
Yes, you are.
I'm proudly a card draw addict.
Yes, you are.
The fact that he's inkable and not like Kuzco. The fact that, sure, he doesn't have wards, so they can use a removal spell on him, but the only removal spells that will take care of him by themselves are 5 cost or more, so at that point, if we're at parity for ink, I can suck that up, right? It's not like they can smash it, right? And if they use 2 Fire the Cannons, I've still got my 2 for 1, right? So there's no point where I'm on the deficit with a removal spell, and if they have to attack into it, then I've got my 3 lore and my card back, even if they attack it with a 5/5 or 6/6 or whatever. I've gotten 2 damage in, I've got my card back, I've gotten 3 lore. That's a good fail state, let alone being able to protect it or otherwise make it so that it sticks around another turn. And heaven forbid for your opponent that they're running low to the ground deck and small characters, if they have to attack this twice, challenge this twice to get it off the board, oh my goodness.
All the value.
Yeah. So for all those reasons, I really, really like Mad Hatter. So
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Mekara pulling the strings. She is a 2-cost inkable for a 2/1 for 1 lore. Wonder Boy. When you play this character, chosen character gains +2 strength this turn.
So I've got her at C-. Ultimately, I would prefer to have Megara than the action cards that give +2 strength. However, saying it's better than a D card for me isn't really saying much. Like any one willpower character, she dies to literally everything. And the biggest problem, and for me the most egregious aspect to her, is that she's a 2-cost that I don't normally want to play on turn 2. And as opposed to something like Flynn Rider, who's going to be pretty good no matter when I play him, she becomes much less impactful in the later game, and I don't want to play her on turn 2, so I have to time her perfectly right for her to be at all impactful, and then she dies to anything. So for all those reasons, she's an easy cut for me.
So for all those reasons, why isn't she an F like she is for me?
Just because, again, she's better than the D cards for me, the action cards. And again, if you're, for example, if you're trying to run a little bit more of a budget deck, she's going to be a lot more accessible than, say, like a Cruella, right?
Okay.
So C- for me is, I'm never going to put it in my deck, but I'm not necessarily going to judge you for putting it in your deck. I still think it's usable. It's just not particularly good.
I think she's hot trash.
I'm not going to fight you hard on that one there. You can't bait me on that one. Next, we've got Mickey Mouse Artful Rogue, 7-cost, uninkable, 6/5, 2 lore, with the ability... with Shift 5, and the ability Misdirection. Whenever you play an action, chosen opposing character can't quest during their next turn.
Yeah, I have Artful Rogue at a B+.
Okay.
Because guess who he pairs very well with?
Obviously, Genie Powers
Genie.
Unleashed.
Yeah.
It's Secret Keeper of Secrets all over again.
Yeah, both.
Stop it. Stop being crazy.
No, I'm being smart. So especially with a shift
to enlighten me, Professor.
Yeah, so especially with a shift in Emerald, you can shift it onto Amber Mickey Mouse. You can shift it onto Amethyst Mickey Mouse. You can shift it onto, I don't know why you would, but you can shift it onto Brave Taylor and Ruby, right? So he's very...
Well, apparently you don't care shifting onto better cards, so... the only Mickey I'm happy to shift him onto is Mickey Mouse Detective.
Well, Sapphire. You also have Steamboat in his own copy.
Steamboat's a D for you, so you're not going to include Steamboat.
Fair.
And I'm still not thrilled. I think Steamboat I've got it at C-, so I'm still not looking to include Steamboat. I don't want to include bad cards because they make another card slightly better. So I want something that I already want in my deck. So Mickey Mouse Detective is the only one currently that I'm looking to shift him onto.
You're not going to put him into your aggro deck for the 2/2?
Oh, heck no. So here's where I'm at. I've got Artful Rogue currently at a C+.
Sure.
I will not argue the fact that he's a cool card, as most Floodborns are. Super cool, great art, all that good stuff. That doesn't matter about the game, right?
I just care about the Shift 5.
You definitely value Shift higher than I do. It seems.
I do.
Again, I'm very avidly spoken about the fact that I don't like cards that rely on one very specific card. Now, you can have any Mickey, but right now, for me, there's only one Mickey I want to shift him onto, so it is a very specific card for me. Yeah. Shift is a powerful ability, but I'm not relying on it. It's powerful but inconsistent for me, right? His last ability, his secondary ability, is a very powerful ability. There just isn't enough cheap actions that I want to play. Again, I don't want to play a bad card just because it makes Mickey Mouse better. There isn't enough cheap actions that I want to play that make
you don't want to play free actions
that make it have sense in this deck. I very much anticipate that Artful Rogue in time will be a very impactful card because I think his secondary ability is very impactful. If we start getting more Develop Your Brains and certainly more cards like Friends on the Other Side, like actions that I really want to play in unison with an ability that really likes action cards being played, absolutely. For anyone that's ever recommended, by the way, that you play the 3-cost action, what's the name of it again? Do It Again. That recommended looping Do It Again. I'm sorry, but you're paying 3 ink for this ability and effectively no other effect because you're just looping those back in again? No, please stop. That's insane. I don't
Even
care.
I will admit that's insane. And I'm all for unique like strategies and
Yeah.
stuff.
So for me right now, he's a C plus just because his effect might get off from time to time with actions you do actually want in your deck, and he's a solid body that does have shift. I don't really think I'm making Emerald Sapphire, but that's about the only pairing
I will
want
make
for him
Emerald
right now.
Sapphire.
Because in
Absolutely.
Sapphire, I've got Develop Your Brain and Let It Go actions that I want to play. Yeah, I don't know. I think that he still needs some help. I just anticipate in the future he's going to be very good. Yeah. All right.
Moving on. We have Mickey Mouse Steamboat Pilot,
Yep.
3 cost, inkable, 3/4 for 1 lore vanilla.
Okay. I'm reading your mind, sir. Is this a D?
It's a C minus for the simple
because of Artful Rogue.
Correct.
Son of a bitch.
Correct. It's a C minus because of
I have him at a
Rogue.
C minus because I've got the other 3, 4 ones at C minus and nothing to do with Artful Rogue. All right, moving on. We've got Mother Gothel, Selfish Manipulator, 6 cost inkable, 3/6, 2 lore, with the ability to skip the drama, stay with mama. While this character is exerted, opposing characters can't quest.
Easy A minus.
Have you played with this card yet?
I have not. But I'm assuming based on that reaction, it's not as impactful as I think it is.
It doesn't play yet particularly well. I think she needs help.
Does she get just absolutely obliterated the moment she quests?
Yeah, and with very little effect on the way back, right? She doesn't fit in the bodyguard in the aggro build, and there's no other bodyguard deck that makes sense. Like I said, I'm still waiting on more impactful bodyguards like Simba. And so she just gets wrecked and is only dealing 3 damage on the way back for 6 cost. So you're effectively getting 6 cost, 2 lore, and 3 damage to a character of your opponent's choice.
But you're also stalling for a turn, no?
Not for a turn,
Because as soon as she's
She
banished,
goes.
they can go back to questing.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a different form of reckless type thing, right? It's forcing them to get rid of her, but she's much easier than John Silver, for example, to get rid of. Or at least there's less cost to you. She's not easier because she's got 1 more willpower, but there's less cost. You're taking less back, right? So yeah, she
plays fine. Don't get me wrong. I still think she's very playable. What do I have her at? I think I've got her at a B. Yeah, I've got her at a B. So I still think she's playable. I still think she's fine. And if you can
find a way to protect her that makes sense and is actually good with the deck, obviously the ability is huge. Yep. Preventing all your opponent's characters from questing. If you can hold on to that for a turn or two, that's game winning. But right now, there just isn't a way to hold on to that particularly well or consistently. So right now, I think she needs a lot more help.
Oh, that's fair.
B might even be generous, quite frankly. But yes, don't get me wrong. When I first saw her revealed, I'm like, oh my goodness. But she hasn't played as well, at least in my playtesting so far. What do we have next?
It's your go.
No, I just did Mother God.
Oh, no, you just said. No, never mind. Sorry.
It's because we skipped over your Mickey Mouse so quickly.
We got Peter Pan, Never Landing. 3 cost, inkable for 3/2/1. It's also evasive.
Yeah. I've got him at C+.
Okay. I have him at C.
Oh, really? See, I thought you were going to be higher than me. So, obviously, evasive's huge. But when this came out, it was one of the very few evasives, so it felt so good. Now that there's more evasives running around, and obviously we still have Fire the Cannons, and we've got Grab Your Sword, and all of these many things that can deal with him, the fact that he only produces 1 lore is really leaving him behind.
I also think it's very on the nose that he dies to Fire the Cannons.
It is, and there's probably something there thematically in terms of the designers, right? But when he does die to Fire the Cannons, it feels real bad.
When your 2 cost dies to Fire the Cannons, it feels kind of bad, but it's not the end of the world. When your 3 cost dies to Fire the Cannons, it feels awful.
And the fact that he only produces one lore, your opponent can fairly well ignore him for a good long while. Again, I've talked about this before. The gap between one lore and two lore is massive. One lore characters can be ignored for some time, and they're not going to make a huge dent. Two lore characters demand attention. So that gap is massive. And I think when there's so many good two lore peers.
And I think when it was first revealed, it was basically considered the Pascal killer.
Which now Pascal isn't a threat anymore.
So completely, exactly. So now with almost every single card in Ruby having evasive, it's like...
Yeah. I mean, C+, remember, is still in I'm happy to have this in my deck tier, but it's at the bottom of that. Right? So I still think you would put him in the deck, because I don't think there's necessarily a ton at 3 costs that you're looking to do, other than Mother Knows Best, but that's a song, so you can sing it, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, he's a great singer for Mother Knows Best. But I'm not thrilled to have him in the deck. Just happy.
Yep.
All right. By contrast, we can do this one quick. We've got Tamatoa, Drab Little Crab. 2-cost inkable, 1/1. That's it. I don't know why they put him in here, but I'm thrilled. It's cute. It's adorable. It's hilarious. But it's useless. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, it's an F. Well, why does this card exist is all I want to know.
Yeah, the fact that I'm paying one more cost. So I already don't like Olaf. I already don't like Minnie Mouse and Ruby. The fact that I got to pay one more for one more willpower.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah. I saw someone use this in a deck with Megara. They were probably so thrilled to be challenging. I didn't play it. I had it played against me.
Oh,
They're like, I'm sure they were so thrilled to be challenging with a 3/4 2-cost. I'm like, it didn't really do anything, and now it's just awful. So congratulations. Yeah, don't bother. Even if the big Tamatoa had shift, please don't bother.
Yeah, don't.
I've got it as a D just because, again, an inkable body, I'm not necessarily going to say is an F. Run away from it. But
run away from this card.
Again, D and F are fairly interchangeable. F was just for fun to say, just don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. They're effectively the same thing. Don't put them in your deck.
Correct.
All right, what do we have next?
We've got Tinkerbell, most helpful, 4-cost inkable for a 2/3/2 evasive, and also Pixie Dust. When you play this character, chosen character gains evasive this turn.
What a absolute middle finger to Ruby, eh? Like, I'm sorry. Like, Pongo, first of all, Pongo's still awesome. But the fact that Pongo exists and then Emerald's just like, you know how Pongo's good? Wouldn't it be better if we gave it another more meaningful, or not more meaningful, meaningful ability at common? Like, so many times when you've got something that's amazing and they tack on another ability, it feels like such a throwaway that doesn't matter. Like Beast Wolfsbane's second ability, right?
Yeah.
This one's actually relevant. So when you're in the mirror match against fellow evasives, you can throw evasive on one of your non-evasive characters for a turn to clear the path for Tinkerbell. Come on. So good. I've got her at a B, but I think it should probably be a B+.
I have her at a B+.
Yeah. So what do I... B+ is it should be 4 times in most decks, or an inclusion in all decks in some number, or a niche bomb. Yeah, so I think B+. I think I'm going to amend mine to B+, because I think that she should be a 4 times in most decks.
Yep.
Very good. So speaking of a card that I think is useless, I know that wasn't actually a segue, but I need to say terrible things.
It's not useless because it can be
looped for Artful Rogue.
Yeah.
We have Do It Again, 3 cost uninkable. I'm just gonna talk over you now. Don't you dare defend this card. 3 cost uninkable action card. Return an action card from your discard to your hand, and somehow this is a rare. I can't put this as entirely unplayable because action cards can be great and there's some good ones to get back. But the fact that you're wasting a card and 3 ink on this and it's uninkable,
You're not wasting three ink.
I've got
You're
it at
playing
C
it for
minus,
free.
but it should be a D.
It's an A minus. You need 4 copies of this with Genie.
Stop
What are you
trying to
talking
rile
about?
me up.
What are you talking about? You play it for free.
Stop.
To
What is
draw
your
it
actual
back?
ranking? And I swear, if it is A minus, I will find a way to reach through this computer and throttle you. What is your actual ranking?
It's a D.
Good. Moving on. Can we talk about good cards now?
Fine. Got a 3-cost uninkable. Mother knows best. It's a song action as well. Return chosen character to their player's hand.
Yeah. I never thought that seeing this an effect like this at 3 cost would have me so excited. But I've got it as a B. The song factor is so massive. The difference between paying for a spell or paying for an action card or not surprisingly, again, hot take here.
How do you
so
hate
massive.
Genie then? Genie can also play this for free.
Patrick, you're killing me.
How? I'm literally curious how a song makes the difference when Genie can play an action.
Anyways, moving on. Yeah, the tempo from this. If anyone needs explanation as to why this is good, yes, it was a starter deck challenge, but I challenge you to play against this series of events with any deck. In the starter deck challenge, in my final game in the finals, which was a beautiful time for this to come up, I had a 3-drop. I had Pongo on turn 4, sung with a 3-drop to bounce their one meaningful play. The next turn, they played it back. I played Mad Hatter and sang with a 3-drop a second Mother Knows Best, and at that point, it was game over. Like, the only thing left was the crying. It was ridiculous. I have seen that my good friend Al, you can call me Al, has removed this from his deck list from the aggro. I'm not prepared to do that yet. I still think that it can be very useful. I do agree that it's not necessarily a must in that deck, but I think it can go into almost any deck, which is why I have it at a B. All right, tell me how you love Genie. I'm just going to mute my microphone for a bit. You talk about Genie again.
No, I mean, I agree with your ranking. I actually have it at a B+, simply for the fact, again, it's one of the actions that Genie can play for free every time he quests. And
You're
I'm
just
grabbing...
a walking meme.
And I'm grabbing what? I'm grabbing, Genie on the job, back from my discard, playing him, bouncing another one, right? Shifting a second Cosmic. So now I got 2. I can play 2 actions for free every turn. Yeah, I mean, I like the card.
So I'm done with... Can we just move to the next color? Because I'm pretty sure looking down that I'm done with any card that I like left in the set. Spoiler alert, but let's go through them. What's the next one, sir?
Yeah, they're all pretty...
You're scrolling down too. You're
like, I'm scrolling down to it just to see what's left. Yeah.
All right, let's go through some of these Fs and Ds here.
So 1 cost uninkable Stampede, deal 2 damage to a chosen character. Woo.
No, to a chosen damaged character.
Oh, damaged character. Yeah,
Big
my bad.
difference.
Yeah, my bad. It's not even Fire the Cannons. It's worse than Fire the Cannons. So yeah, this is an F. Like, why?
So for anyone that's like, yeah, but it's practically Fire the Cannons, let me explain to you the difference between this card and Fire the Cannons. The whole reason you want a low-cost card that deals a little bit of damage is to survive the early game. Clear the board in the early game so that when your bombs start hitting and you start doing big things, you're not getting overrun. Pun partially intended with Stampede. Not intended, but appreciated. Here's the thing. You're not going to be using this in the early game, because chances are, if they're taking damage, they're taking enough damage to banish them. So this card doesn't become impactful being a very loosely used in this particular situation. It doesn't become impactful until later in the game, and at that point it's like, okay, there's something that's still alive, and let me finish it off with this. Which isn't nothing, but it's been rotting in your hand all the time up until this, because it's not inkable. Heaven knows why. And then, great, you've used a card to get rid of a card that's mostly used up anyway. You will find times where you're happy to have this, sure. But for all the times that you've been happy to have it, there's going to be 30 other times where it's either been rotting in your hand or used inefficiently or just utter trash. So please don't play this card. When it was revealed, there were people like, yeah, it's not as good as Fire the Cannons, but maybe just out of desperation, Emerald doesn't have any other options. What can you do, right? You cannot play it. You can play another color. You can play the 1-cost 2/2/1s that I said are C's, because at least they're inkable, so if you don't need them, you can ink them. You can't do that with this. Most of the time, you're not going to need it. It's garbage.
Yep.
Okay. This is really starting. I'm actually a big fan of Emerald, but I'm starting to get heated at some of these trash cards.
They're all actions.
I just need to go back to looking at Tinkerbell. I'm just going to focus on her for a little bit. Tinkerbell. Oh, great. Now I have to read the next one. Oh.
You do.
Steal from the Rich. Action card for 5-cost uninkable. Whenever one of your characters quests this turn, each opponent loses 1 lore.
F.
Thank you.
You're never gonna play this. Why would you?
Some people are, I'm sure, but you shouldn't.
No. Why would you?
So,
it's a worse Rapunzel. It's a worse Aladdin. Like, why would you?
Yeah. So this is an F for me as well. This is Runaway Screaming. This is the winniest of win more cards. If this is ever valuable to you, you have already won. Because what is this going to need for it to actually be worth it? Rotting in your hand again. Uninkable for a long time until you can finally cash in. Again, pun not intended, but highly appreciated. I love a good pun. How many characters is it going to take for this to be remotely good? 4? 5? If you're questing with 4 or 5 characters in a turn, you've probably already won or are about to win. There will be niche scenarios, just like Stampede, where you're going to be like, I wouldn't have won if it wasn't for playing Steal from the Rich. Congratulations. That doesn't change the fact that the 99 other games you had it was patently useless.
Absolutely.
Don't play it. When you open this in your starter deck, burn it.
Just rip it up. Yeah, just rip it up.
Find anyone that will give you any value for it and trade them for a better card. Trade them for a common. Trade this for friends on the other side. It's better.
Who's trading friends on the other side for this nonsense? Right. I want to find that person.
All right, let's continue. Can we just wrap up this trash? This at least one is marginally useful.
Sudden Chill, 2-cost inkable. Song action. An opponent chooses and discards a card. This is a C- for me only because it fits in my hand destruction deck.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is I don't think hand disruption is viable yet. I think this will come in time. I think right now this is a D for me, and in time this might be a viable strictly because it's a song. If it wasn't a song, I do not think it's viable. Once hand disruption is a thing, I think that
it's
this
already
will be viable because it's a song.
I will make it a thing.
But right now it's a D for me.
I'll make it a thing. Good.
The Beast is mine. 3-cost inkable. My goodness, could you mention if this was uninkable? 3-cost inkable. Man, we're just sunshine roses today, eh? Hey, we were pretty excited earlier about other cards.
We were.
So bear with me.
These actions are not.
I flamed out because I had such great cards, and then it's just descended into this.
It's just garbage now. Yeah.
3-cost inkable. Chosen character gains Reckless during their next turn. We've already talked ad nauseum about why Reckless isn't that impactful. No
it's a D only because it's inkable.
Yep. I still qualify this as an F just because inkable is not enough. You've got plenty of other inkable options. It's
fair.
Terrible. And you're paying 3 for this? This should be 1 and it still shouldn't exist. What's next?
Vicious Betrayal. 1-cost inkable. Action. Chosen character gains +2 strength this turn. If a villain character is chosen, they get +3 instead.
Nope. D still.
Yep.
I have no interest whatsoever in plus strength action cards.
I don't either.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't either. I mean, I just think it's just.
Sorry, I'm getting so fiery that I'm just railroading you through this whole back half. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
No, like I said, I'm of the same mind. I don't like plus strength cards because it takes up a spot in your deck.
Yep.
And it really doesn't do as much as you think it does in the long run.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is if you are like, hey, I've got a spot in my deck, why not throw this in? You're not building your deck right.
Yeah.
So, as you said, the spots in your deck should be precious. They should be dedicated to cards that actually matter. This does not. You are wasting a card. And there will be people that will at me saying, yeah, but I can trade up. Great. You know how you could also trade up? By just playing anything else that is on the board. Yeah. There will be times where this will allow you to trade your 1 cost for a 3 cost, or maybe even a 4 cost. But do you know what? Trading 2 cards, even if they're 2 or low cost cards, is still to your detriment. Right? We talked about how impactful Maleficent Sorceress is. It's because she draws a card. A 2/2 body is not a big deal, but a 2/2 body attached to a card is a big deal. This is a negative card. You are throwing a card away just to give your character +2 or 3 strength. Please stop. I will thank you when I play against you, but I want you to have a better deck. Please stop putting this in your deck.
Have you actually found people playing this card
Yes.
in Pixelborn?
I feel so bad. Shout out to James again, the lore master. He was on a chat with me today. He's like, I'm playing someone that's playing cards like this. He's like, I feel like a bully. We're just not in the same league. Yeah. Again, early days, when we don't have other cards, yeah, of course, have cards like this in your deck. We don't have anything else to play with. If you just have a starter deck, that's okay. We're going to be short on product for a while. But as soon as you have more cards, get rid of this.
Yeah, immediately.
Dr. Facilier's cards. 2 cost, uninkable, item, ability the cards will tell. Exert this, you pay 1 less ink for the next action card you play this turn.
D.
Yep. F, I've got it at. Just way too niche. We've established with Artful Rogue, there's not enough actions yet. And quite frankly, I still don't understand why it's so much to ask to just have a 2-cost item that produces an ink. Is it so much to ask? Is that so busted? Like, why do I need to have this that even in an action card deck, assuming that there's when there is enough action cards, like the song deck, it's gonna, once we have enough songs that are of value, it's probably gonna be like 2/3 of the deck. Not 2/3 of the deck. Let's say 35% of the deck is action cards, right? I still wouldn't want to play this because that's 2/3 of my deck that this doesn't do anything for. So I just don't understand where this is ever going to be usable unless we get to a point where I can somehow win the game off just an action card deck and no characters.
Yep.
What's the last one, Patrick?
Stolen Scimitar. 2 cost, inkable. / exert. Chosen character gains +1 strength. If character is named Aladdin, he gets 2 instead.
It's a
D
C-
again.
for me.
No.
The only credit I will give this is that it's reusable, right?
Sure.
Reusable effects like this will probably over time eventually accrue you enough value to be worth a card. The problem is it's going to take some time. So it's still a C-. You still shouldn't put it in your deck. But again, I'm not necessarily going to fault you for having this in your deck. Certainly over Vicious Betrayal. That was hard. That home stretch, and I really like Emerald. That home stretch was rough, man. That was brutal. Thank you to all of you at home that suffered through those last few cards with us. Hopefully you enjoyed talking about the great cards that came before. And can we just go back to like Genie on the Job and Tinkerbell and Mad Hatter and just forget we ever had to look at those last few cards?
At least the last 2 colors are decent. I mean, the last color is fantastic.
I need a beignet. That's what I need.
Let me just put it out that way, right? But at least Ruby should be decent, but Sapphire all the way.
Yeah.
Sapphire, every single card is A.
We're getting there. We're getting there, buddy. 2 more and then we'll get there. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great one. We'll see you for Ruby next time. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. It's truly an honor to see you enjoying our videos. Thank you to Lorcana.com for having us as one of their featured creators, and thank you to the amazing community coming together around this incredible game. Please like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments what you'd like to see on our next video. Until next time, if you'd like to continue with us on this journey, please be our guest.